Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kevin Crouch. I'm originally from LA. I'm a Los Angeles native, and now I live in Oakland, California. I started my career as an educator, focused on creating really sort of sustaining, flourishing environments for students with a focus on racial equity. That's transitioned to supporting nonprofits and organizations focused on racial equity writ large in different spaces. So I entered philanthropy as a fellow and a program officer at the Hewlett Foundation on the education team, supporting grant making in education research, policy, and practice. Now I'm at the Bridgespan Group, which is not a foundation, but our mission is to sort of break cycles of poverty and create a society characterized by equity and justice. And we do that by advising philanthropists and nonprofits and producing research for the fields. So I'm happy to be here with you all and to hear the questions that you have.
Kevin, yeah.
Offer an answer to this question. Fun fact, I used to be an elementary school teacher, and it's the longest, hardest, couple years of my life. But I learned from that, anytime I'm asked a question, one thing I ask myself is, how would I explain this to a group of fourth graders? That's my way of understanding, do I know how to actually explain what I'm talking about? So I hope you don't mind. I'm going to picture all of you as fourth graders right now. Hope you don't mind that. But after I finished teaching, I went to graduate school. And then I worked at a foundation, and I came back to visit my students, and they're like, Mr. Kevin, what do you do for work? And I told them I worked in philanthropy, and they're like, what does that mean? And why do you like it? Why are you doing that? And the way I explained to them, I told them, all of us are in school right now. All of you are in school, and some of you love school, some of you like school, some of you, don't really care for school that much. So what are your ideas for how to make school better, to make school more fun, more enjoyable, a greater place to be? Give me all of your ideas. And they would yell out, no homework, or longer recess, or study, make experiments, this or that or that. And so I told them that my job now is to hear ideas that people have for how to make, the world a better place, whether it's in schools or in healthcare or these other things. My idea is to listen to their ideas and to support them to bring those ideas to life and understand what challenges are they facing, what problems are they having, and how can I help them to sort of solve them so that we can make a better world for all of us. And so it sounds kind of simple, but that's really what drew me to philanthropy. It's why I still kind of work with philanthropists now. It's that sort of orientation that's all about relationships and really supporting, really thoughtful, passionate people to really bring ideas that can make this world a better place for all of us in different ways. And so I believe that people have the capacity to solve their own problems. And I've never been one for the spotlight or anything like that. I'm more like, how can I support and support the conditions for other people to really sort of take charge and make things happen for them. So that's sort of my spin on that same question. Might work for some people. Yeah, interesting. I don't think there's a real linear path to philanthropy. I wish there was. And sort of to your point, I mean, I found that the constellation of experiences that I had, I was able to use them in the philanthropic space there. But I think the biggest piece of advice I have, it's not a sort of a plan for finding a career in philanthropy, but it's more just finding your way in general. It's just talking to as many people as you can, even if you have no idea what you want to do or exactly the job that you want. The story of how I got to the Hewlett Foundation is really, I was in graduate school. I had spent my time working in education. One of my professors invited students over to his house just to get to know us better. And he asked me, what are you interested in? What do you want to do after this? And I said, I don't know. I know what I'm interested in, what I'm passionate about. I'm interested in education. I want to think about, how do we sort of, drive better sort of education environments and systems at a sort of societal level, and ask right questions about that. And he's the one who suggested the Hewlett Foundation to me because foundations are focused on solving systemic issues. They had an education program. It was a place I had never even thought of or considered, and the role I didn't even know existed. But me sort of networking and having that conversation helped sort of plant that seed there. And then talking with more people, I found other people who had either connections or advice for me for navigating that role, which really helped. I ended up being fortunate enough to be able to sort of get the job. And so I say that not to say that it's an easy field to get into. I think it's actually very difficult in many ways, depending on what kind of philanthropic work you want to do. If it's sort of working as an institutional funder versus doing philanthropy via sort of your own giving or a family foundation, it can just be very difficult. But just the work of connecting with as many people as you can and being, clear about what you're passionate about, but also what you might be interested in, also what you don't know yet. There's real power in just having those conversations and seeing what blossoms from them. I'd love to pick up on this thread here because I'm feeling the conflation of lots of questions that have been posed. One about what do I enjoy about philanthropy, and one of them is being able to wrestle and grapple with really big and important questions like this, and with people coming from different vantage points too. I think it's great, and it's like hearing the conversation brings me back to the question of a big challenge in philanthropy, and one that I'm going to share. It's in part an expression of my politics, and I think of many others, but doesn't speak for everyone. But one challenge that philanthropy is facing is really reckoning with the role of philanthropy in a democratic society, and the fact that, for many philanthropists and funders, aside from community foundations, much of that wealth was created as a result of a very inequitable system. And, for many funders, if their vision for the world were to come to life, you wouldn't have philanthropy, as you see it now. You wouldn't have such a massive concentration of wealth in the hands of a few who are then able to use that wealth to then dictate, the life trajectories of other people. Just sort of wouldn't happen. And so for many funders, particularly the ones that my organization is working with, a lot of funders are really wrestling with the challenge of how do you actually fund in a way that makes yourself obsolete? And that's in many ways supporting, grassroots organizers or organizations that are really looking for a real fundamental change in our economic and political system, one that doesn't privilege the wealthy or allow for so many people to live in poverty and to need, the beneficence and generosity of, philanthropists and ultra wealthy. How do you actually create a world where that's not the case? And there's not an easy answer to that question. And I think more and more funders are starting to ask that question. It's a real challenge to figure out what does that actually mean for what you do today and, for the world that you want to see, a few generations from now.